Zabir. Today we're gonna rank the studio albums by Kraftwerk. I won't be including Organization, Tone Float, that's pre-Kraftwerk. I won't include Kraftwerk Live, which is the exact same version as Concert Classics. This is a live 1975 concert, and I won't be including a Transmission Impossible, which is very interesting. Disc 1 is live in Suez, 1970. Disc 2 is a mix of Cologne, Germany, 75, and Paris, 76. Disc 3 is live in Tokyo, Japan, in 81. And the sound quality is very good. I'm not including Expo 2000. This is a promo version, and this is the official one with this brilliant cover. And a shame they didn't do a complete album based off the Expo. Well, of course, we got the Tour de France soundtracks and all of that. So let's start the ranking. At the bottom, I'm placing The Mix. This is an album Kraftwerk worked on. Well, they were gonna re-record all of their songs, or at least the hit songs. They were gonna convert it into digital, and to me, a lot of the charm disappeared in the mix. No pun intended. I do like the updated version of Computer Love. I don't like the Radioactivity version that much, but this is better than a standard best of album. So I feel a little embarrassed placing it at the very bottom. Next up, the album formerly known as Electric Café. This is the remastered version where they renamed it Technopop, which was the original title for this album. I used to love this album, but this is probably the album that I've got most tired of listening to during my many years of listening to Kraftwerk. The songs here on this album, side 1 is basically just one long medley, Boing Boom Cha, and Technopop and music non-stop. It is good, but does it have to last for 20 minutes? I'd be perfectly happy with the 7-minute version of this, and they probably also released single versions of this theme. Side B opens with the telephone call, and on this Technopop version we got the single version, and we got the B-side House Phone. I personally prefer the original long version of the telephone call, and I believe Karl Bartos wrote that song and also sang that song. Then we got Sex Object, which I'm not too keen on, but it ends with the fantastic song Electric Café. I won't be saying that Electric Café, the song, saved the entire album, because it is a decent album. Maybe the problem was 6 years went by until they could complete this album. So that's my second least played Kraftwerk album. I weren't sure if I were gonna include the mix and the 3D thing, but Kraftwerk isn't known to have released that many albums, so okay, I thought I'll add it. And one day I will buy the complete box set on CD, not only this so-called highlight version. This is basically the mix part 2 in a way. Many of the songs are very similar to the mix, and Kraftwerk as we have known them since around 89, 1990, 91. The sequencing of this album is very good. It's very easy to play through it all. You get Autobahn, Giga Counter, Radioactivity, Trans-Europe Express, Metal on Metal, Abzug, The Man Machine, Numbers, Computer World, Point Boom Chat, Technopop, Music Non-Stop, The Robots, Tour de France, Prologue, Etappe 1, Chrono, and Etappe 2. So this is more or less, again, like the mix, best of Kraftwerk, performed live. We're moving on. Next up, and I'm not sure tomorrow I'll agree, but for now I played through all of these, so for now it's Radioactivity or Radioactivität. I would like to also mention that I always prefer the German singing versions. Nothing wrong with the English, but I prefer when Ralf Hütter and Karl Bartos, when they sing in their native language. It makes more sense. Radioactivity. Some great pictures here. And I'm not sure, I've always loved this album. I could have ranked it way higher. Sometimes it's maybe the best one. So yeah, I'm not sure. Today I'm placing it where I'm placing it. I like all the songs, Radioactivity, Radioland, Airwaves, let's see, Antenna. Antenna is maybe a little silly, but it's good. Radio Stars, Uranium, and also those weird little numbers, News, and also that what is it called again, that song? It doesn't say in my cover. It's like Vukudar vocals, which is saying something. It sounds very spooky. I love that song. We're moving on. Tour de France soundtracks. Now it's just called Tour de France on the later editions. When it was released, it was named Tour de France soundtracks. And this is a very, very good album. Remember, Kraftwerk hadn't released a studio album with new material since 1987 with their Electric Cafe, aka Technopop. And if you count the years, 87 until 2003, it's a pretty long gap. And to be honest, I'd never thought I'd see another Kraftwerk album with new material. And when I first heard this, it was like, meh, not as good as the 70s Kraftwerk or even early 80s Kraftwerk. But thankfully, I never gave up on this album, and it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And I also believe the last song here is the original Tour de France version from 1983, or this is a remake of it, but in with that sound and that collage. The other songs here are much more modern. Prologue, Tour de France, Etape 1, Etape 2, Etape 3, Chrono, Vitamin. Vitamin is great. Aerodynamic, it's great. Titanium, Electrocardiogram, it's fantastic. La Forme, it's great. And Regeneration. This is a very good Kraftwerk album, and I hope it's not the last album they release in their lifetime. I hope it's not their last studio album ever. Maybe it is. I'm not sure. We're moving on. Autobahn. And you may ask yourself, why do I place this so low? I think with this and also Radioactivity, these are albums that I've been listening to for 20, 25 years. And they hold up, of course, they hold up. The album Autobahn is many people's favorite, and it is also a very good introduction to Kraftwerk. Though I rarely need to play side A, which is all Autobahn. For me, the most interesting stuff on this album is the B-side with Kometenmelodie 1 and 2 and Mitternacht, and the beautiful outro song Morgenspaziergang. I love the flute in Kraftwerk, and such a shame that they ditched the flutes. I believe around Mensch Machine or Computer World. Maybe they treated it to sound like a synth. I'm not sure. This is in fact one of the few of the old pressed versions. But hey, you know me, I gotta have both versions. That is the English singing versions, and my preferred versions, the German sounding versions. And there are some small differences here and there in the music, but mostly it's just the vocals. Some fantastic pictures in this remastered version, which to me sounds perfectly good. And yes, the songs on Mensch Machine, I love them all. Die Roboter, Space Lab, Metropolis. Okay, I never need to hear the model or Das Model again. And then the beautiful neon licht, neon lights. And the ending song is also brilliant, Die Mensch Machine. Probably my favorite song on this album is Die Mensch Machine, or The Man Machine, if you like. Next up in my ranking, it is Computer Welt. The funny thing here, if you can see it, it does say Computer World on the slipcase. We turn it around, and thankfully it is in German singing language. Computerwelt by Kraftwerk. Of course, it is a masterpiece. It is also maybe a very good introduction to the band, as I said, with Autobahn and the Man Machine or the Mensch Machine. Computer World, Computerwelt is also one of those albums which I guess is a little bit easier to get into compared to many other Kraftwerk albums, especially the first three ones, and also maybe the mix and the bootlegs. Yeah, the English version is looking exactly the same. There are no differences at all. Well, we are at fourth place, fourth best Kraftwerk album for me is their debut album Kraftwerk. And yes, of course, it is a bootleg because they never officially released this on CD. And that's a shame because this is a masterpiece. Rückzug, Stratovarius, Megahertz, and Von Himmel hoch. I love everything on this album. You can clearly hear, if you have been studying Kraftwerk, then you can clearly hear this is Kraftwerk. But Ralf Hutter don't seem to agree that this is proper Kraftwerk. He said in an interview that the first three albums were more like exploration and finding their sound. And yes, of course, he is totally correct, but it seems like he dismisses these three first albums. Also worth mentioning on this is that we get Klaus Dinger on drums, which went on to form the fantastic band Neu. And a fun story about Kraftwerk: between the first and their second album, Ralf Hutter left the band for a couple of months. So the two guys in Neu and Florian Espelen Schneider continued as Kraftwerk. And there are some fantastic bootlegs around. Bremen Chinu, Bremen 1971, where it sounds like Neu meets Kraftwerk. Third place, Trans-Europa Express. The last with heavy flutes, not heavy, but their last album where you can hear the flutes. And I love Kraftwerk with the flutes. They never quite were the same after the flutes disappeared. So in a way, this is their last masterpiece chronologically. Of course, I love Man Machine and Computer World, but they sort of ditched a lot of their organic sounds and their more human sounding things. Of course, they went all robots. That's a nice picture. and yes, this album, quickly show the English version too, even if it's completely the same. But you know, when you are a fan, you are a fan. Then you need them all. Songs on Trans-Europa Express, everything is great. Europa Endlos, Spiegelsaal, Schaufelse Puppen, Trans-Europa Express, Metal auf Metal, Abzug, Franz Schubert, and Endlos. I will repeat the titles in English. Europe Endless, The Hall of Mirrors, Showroom Dummies, Trans-Europe Express, Metal on Metal, Abzug, Franz Schubert, and Endless Endless. And this is a masterpiece, 10 out of 10, no doubt. Then my second favorite Kraftwerk album, Kraftwerk 2. And mostly based on side A, which is all Kling Klang, which is in my top 3 ever Kraftwerk songs. But side B is kind of interesting too. Here Ralf Hütter and Florian Schneider plays guitar and bass, and they just kind of it sounds like they're just improvising with no goal in mind. Atem, Strom, Spule vor, Wellenlang is very, very, very good. And harmonica. Harmonica is just a harmonica playing some simple tones. And I think it's Atem, which is just pure breathing. And would you believe it, Ralf Hütter had long hair. I could have found my book, but it's beyond my reach. So, what is my number one Kraftwerk album? And I'm kind of embarrassed to show this. A CDR. I had it on LP. It got stolen. I were to order it on CD. Of course, bootleg, as all the first 3 ones on CD are bootlegs. And they wanted like 80 euro for it, so I thought I can wait. And this is the Bremen Radio 1971, incredibly great concert. And yes, on Ralf and Florian, everything is good. Ananas Symphonie, Tanzmusik, Elektrische Roulette, everything. 10 out of 10. It's a masterpiece. I'll quickly show the Neu albums, their debut, which is very, very good. If you are gonna check out 2 songs on this album, you will listen to Hallo Gallo and Negative Land. Negative Land, that's a crazy one. Here is Neu 2. There is also a fun story about this album. They used quite a lot of time on the first side of this CD LP. Well, LP back in the days, now you can choose CD or LP, whatever. And it opens with one of their best songs ever, Für immer, which means forever. And yes, on side B, they just well, they ran out of money, so they took their recently released single, which contained a song called Super and a song called Neuche. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, but basically they took these 2 songs and kind of remixed them direct on a vinyl LP player. So you get some really weird stuff on side B, but Für immer is maybe my favorite noise song of all time. Super is fantastic. It's a great album. And their third album, which just barely happened, they came to a compromise here. Side A were songs composed by Michael Rotter, Easy, Seelan and Lebwohl, all masterpieces. While side B was Klaus Dinger's song, Hero, E-Musik and After 8. And this is a masterpiece, and probably the easiest album by Neu to get into. I don't have their fourth album, which was first released as Neu 4, then it was re-released as Neu 86. But I got the first La Düsseldorf album from Klaus Dinger, and this is more of side B of, on this one. If you enjoy side B of Noise 75, you will love La Düsseldorf. This is the debut album. 4 songs: Düsseldorf, La Düsseldorf, Silver Cloud, and Time. And also their second one, Viva, which is also a great album. Cha Cha 2000 is a masterpiece. So that was my Kraftwerk ranking, and sorry for bringing in some Neu stuff. I'll leave you with this beautiful lenticular cover. Hope you enjoyed my ranking. You probably disagree with my ranking, so feel free to leave your ranking in the comments below. And I'll also say that tomorrow my ranking will probably be different. That's it. Have a nice evening. Bye bye.